Before I was even born, my father was in the Congress of the United States, Thomas D'Alessandro Jr. He was, as a little boy, little teenager, a Shabbat Goy. So he spoke Yiddish.
Imagine the odd that her dad was a Shabbat Goy who spoke Yiddish and made it to Congress and then was a career politician, and now she's been a career politician. Just imagine the odds. And then what are the fruits of that? She's over in Israel, bowing down before the chosen ones. A good Catholic girl, right? Isn't Pelosi a Catholic, supposedly? Shabbos Goy.
Spoke Yiddish. So as he grew up in that, and he was an orator, he was a great speaker and all the rest, and he had a love for the idea of a Jewish state in what was then called Palestine. So when he was older and he went to Congress, this was one of his big issues. He worshipped at the shrine of Franklin Roosevelt. He was a New Deal Democrat. He worshipped at the shrine of Franklin Roosevelt. But he disagreed with him on two very strong points. One was on the treatment of Jewish people in Europe that he wanted to call more attention to. And two, okay?
At APEC.
The second was the establishment of a Jewish state in what was then known as Palestine.
Both the left and the right both grovel to Israel so much, and then we're not even allowed to talk about it. To even notice it or point out their influence or their power is taboo. It is the sacred cow in America, the third rail. And she's saying that stuff, and almost all the Democrats are, and then basically every Republican as well. Trump says stuff like Israel controls Congress, and they should, and that's a good thing. And it's sad that they don't anymore, supposedly, because the Democrats took over.
There's people in this country that are Jewish no longer love Israel. I'll tell you, the evangelical Christians love Israel more than the Jews in this country. It used to be that Israel had absolute power over Congress, and today I think it's the exact opposite. And I think Obama and Biden did that.
Oh my gosh, lock them up. Lock up the traitors, Obama and Biden. That they don't let Israel have complete control over Congress, which isn't even true at all. Even that's a lie. It's just like shilling on top of lies. So Pelosi does that, Trump does this, and for us to point out that it's going on, to use the term Zionist shill, like, you're a Nazi. Dismissed, banned everywhere, he's a Nazi.
And yet in the election, they still get a lot of votes from Jewish people, which tells you that the Jewish people, and I've said this for a long time, the Jewish people in the United States either don't like Israel or don't care about Israel. I mean, you look at the New York Times. The New York Times hates Israel, hates them.
New York Times hasn't even covered Amnesty International, who declared that they're an apartheid state. They didn't even cover it. The New York Times is so anti-Semitic. Like, come on. If that's where they're setting the bar for what qualifies as anti-Semitism, it should tell you everything you need to know about anybody throwing around that term.
And they're Jewish people that run the New York Times. I mean, the Sulzberger family. There's people.
Well, the biggest change I've seen in Congress is Israel literally owned Congress. You understand that 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And it was so powerful. It was so powerful. And today it's almost the opposite.
Exactly. You're right. Shams the cat. Biden said he's a proud Zionist. I'll look up if I can find that.
You have between AOC and Omar and these people that hate Israel. They hate it with a passion. They're controlling Congress, and Israel is not a force in Congress anymore. It's just amazing. I've never seen such a change. And we're not talking about over a very long period of time. But I think you know exactly what I'm saying. They had such power. Israel had such power, and rightfully, over Congress, and now it doesn't. It's incredible, actually.
Oh my gosh! Rightfully.
Well, Senator Joe Biden has that most people don't fully understand. That is unique and how can I say it? So strong with Jews worldwide. There is a, I mean, you know, I used to say early on when I was a kid, I'd say, when I was a young senator, I'd say, if I were a Jew, I'd be a Zionist. I am a Zionist. You don't have to be a Jew to be a Zionist.
While some American progressives and liberals have claimed
Jew to be a Zionist. And not all Jews are Zionists. Okay, where are we at now? Let's see. Did we play that full? We played enough clips. I mean, we could show you the clip of Lindsey Graham saying more for Israel. Like literally both sides just fight over who can do more for Israel. That's the reality of America. We live in a ziocracy. That's the term that needs to be more normalized. Ziocracy. Don't you think? Okay. Now, moving on to the theme of leftist Zionists and atheists in Judaism, I frequently talk about how many of the popular mainstream atheists around are all take it very easy and soft on Judaism and on Israel and only focus on Christians bad and kind of just plays into the whole light and dark narrative in a way. And a friend sent me this the other day. I hadn't seen it. Sam Harris, definitely one of the most famous atheists in America, who's Jewish. He's part of the intellectual dark web with Weinstein and Dave Rubin and Jordan Peterson, who's groveling for lots of Christ grifting right now, promoting the Bible and saying, God's real and stuff. The Christians are really loving him. He's opening up a very lucrative financial stream, appeasing the Christians for sure. So here's his article from his own blog, why he doesn't criticize Israel. And a lot of pill here, although he does kind of make some good points that I want to highlight that are true, but still his overall is very apologetic and very biased towards Israel. And I wonder why. Because there's definitely you just can't deny that there's some tribal loyalty. He says, when we're talking about the consequences of irrational beliefs based on Scripture, the Jews are the least of the least offenders, he says. He said many critical things about Judaism. So just because there's fewer in number and they've always been the persecuted religion, although that they're the original Torah that the other two religions were spin-offs, basically, that they used to pen against each other, according to the Talmud. So see, they're the least offenders. They're the victims, really, in all of this. This is what we see a lot from Christopher Hitchens as well. We're going to get into him also as a leftist. I don't know if I want to call him a Zionist, but he's a leftist Marxist neocon, Christopher Hitchens, for sure. And he says, parts of the Hebrew Bible, books like Leviticus and Exodus and Deuteronomy are the most repellent, true, the most sickening, unethical documents to be found in any religion. I want to make a quote and put it next to a picture of Sam Harris saying that, because I think that's powerful that people that have read it actually know. A lot of Christians, if they actually read these things, is what makes them become non-believers. Ex-Christians. They're worse than the Quran, he says. They're worse than any part of the New Testament. But the truth is, most Jews recognize this and don't take these texts seriously. Certainly, Reform Jews don't take these serious, but the Reform Jews is only the latest manifestation of Judaism, and they are not the ingrained, they're not the ones that are wielding the power. The most powerful Jewish groups are groups like Chabad Lubavitch. And the top rabbis that believe these things are the top sages in the Jewish community. So this is I disagree with this excuse here that they're the least of the offenders and that they're not as dangerous because they don't all take it seriously. Many of them do take it seriously. And even the secular Jews still retain some of the Judaism is the identity of Jewish people. You can't really remove Judaism because it's a place, it's a religion, it's a history, a fictitious history, but they believe them still. Some of it, at least. He says, of course, there are some Oh, he says, it's simply a fact that most Jews and most Israelis are not guided by Scripture, and that's a very good thing. He's absolutely wrong. I would argue and show you all the articles that the Hasidic groups and the ultra-Orthodox are growing in number, growing in influence, wielding tremendous political influence over in Israel. They don't completely run everything. It's not monolithic. There's always different factions. But to say that the Hasidics and the Chabad in Israel doesn't have big influence is just a bold-faced lie. He has to know that. They do demographic studies that the Orthodox are going to be completely running Israel the way things are heading right now because they have so many more children. He says, of course, there are some who are, and not to mention that Chabad is like close with the top politicians. Top politicians used to go and grovel before the Rebbe. He also says, of course, there are some who are. There are religious extremists among Jews. I mean, I think the religious extremists are groups like Chabad Lubavitch, which are like also the most mainstream and widespread Jewish groups. Now, I consider these people to be truly dangerous. Good. As you should, as do I. I don't think Israel should exist as a Jewish state. I think it is obscene, irrational, and unjustifiable to have a state organized around a religion. So I don't celebrate the idea that there's a Jewish homeland in the Middle East. I certainly don't support any Jewish claims to real estate based on the Bible. Note, read this paragraph again. That'd be another good quote. He says, the rest of the world has shown itself eager to murder the Jews at almost every opportunity. So he's still running with the Esau, Jacob, they're the innocent victims, the persecution complex. He's still completely believes in that hook, line, and sinker. So if there were going to be a state organized around protecting members of a single religion, it certainly should be a Jewish state. See, this is how, so he admits some good things, but it's still apologetics. Little question over the course of fighting multiple wars that Israelis have done things that amount to war crimes. Absolutely. The Israelis simply are held to a different standard. That's the textbook APEC, ZOA, ADL line. They're held to a different standard. And the condemnation leveled at them by the rest of the world is completely out of proportion to what they have actually done. You see, they've been able to get away with it because of their influence over Christians and control of America. And the truth is that there is an obvious, undeniable, and hugely consequential moral difference between Israel and her enemies. Oh, they're the moral ones. Again, that's very, very religious type of interpretation. Funny for being a secular atheist, how many religious interpretations he seems to share with Judaism. And then he says, the charter of Hamas, they're genocidal. Okay, the charter of the Talmud and the Torah is genocidal as well. It looks forward to a time based on Quranic prophecy when the earth itself will cry out for Jewish blood, where the trees and stones will say, oh, Muslim, oh, come and kill him. This is a political document. I've seen this debunked. We are talking about, and again, this is like the Zionist favorite go-to talking point. We are talking about a government that was voted into power by a majority of Palestinians, that they don't have much of a choice for leadership in Gaza. And really, the right-wing Jews in Israel almost like to have Hamas in power because it keeps Gaza and the West Bank from uniting, and it keeps a villain. They always need a villain, an adversary, to play out their paradigm. And he says, yes, I know that not every Palestinian supports Hamas, but enough do to have brought them to power. Hamas is not a fringe group. He says, oh, and by the way, everything he says here about what the Quran says in the end times, like all of this is true about Jewish belief as well. There's clips of Jews in Israel teaching the kids that they're going to enslave the Muslims and kill all the Muslims and destroy the Dome of the Rock and rebuild the temple and all this stuff, and they're all going to be kicked out of the land. They're running through the streets like on the regular in Israel, chanting death to the Arabs. Yet here is Sam Harris just saying, oh, the poor Jews and that evil Hamas. I mean, You see, this is the difference between Sam Harris, Christopher Hitchens, and non-believers like myself. Let's see, what else do we have here? So it seems to me that you have to side with Israel here, he says. No choice. You have one side which, if it could really accomplish its aims, would simply live peacefully with its neighbors. Oh, that they just all, there's a few extremists, but they just all want to live peacefully with the Arabs. So disingenuous. He knows, he should know that there's a large segment of influential Jews in Israel that don't want to have any peace. They want it to be the Jewish state. God gave it to them. There shall be no covenant with them. I'm not understanding what's up with the comments right now. It seems like the comments are out of whack. White Falcon says he knows who butters his bagels. Again, granted, there's some percentage of Jews who are animated by their own religious hysteria and their own prophecies. Some are awaiting them on the Messiah on contested land. Yes, people are willing to sacrifice the blood of the children for the glory of God, but for the most part, they are not representative of the current state of Judaism, sure, or the actions of the Israeli government, sure. We've seen these yeshiva schools and the IDF and Mossad and Shin Bet. They all have their own little secret rabbis. I mean, it's true there are secular Israelis that don't believe any of this stuff. But like I said, they're like Sam Harris. They still retain some of the secular messianism. And they still identify with Judaism. You can't be a Jew and really not identify with Judaism in a way. Unless you're like Gilad Atzmon and you've like really completely denounced it. And he says, and it is how Israel deals with these people, their own religious lunatics, that will determine whether they can truly hold the moral high ground. That's a good point. That's why the ADL very rarely will criticize some type of religious lunatic in Israel, so they can still seem like they're not completely biased. Well, sometimes it's better just optics to try to distance yourself with some of the nuts over there. But they still defend Chabad and saying anything about Chabad's beliefs, or even just straight from the scripture of the Torah, the Talmud, the Zohar. Not allowed. And then he finishes it up here. The truth is we are all living in Israel. Again, the talking point that, we're all Jews. They came for the Jews, that type of thing. It's just that some of us haven't realized it yet. In a way, we all are in Israel. The fact that this is a Zionized world, a Judaized world via Christianity and Islam. Half of the planet believes in the delusions of the Abrahamic faiths from the Holy Land in Zion. So, a couple good quotes in there, but again, vindication what I say, that they always are soft on Israel, soft on Judaism, and really just play apologetics for Israel. All right, and then now I got some Christopher Hitchens clips. Let's play first. This is an old clip. Well, check this out. Where is it? The title is Mad Witch Spouts Archaic Doctrine to Stephen Fry and Christopher Hitchens. Watch what and this Catholic woman's voice is just, this is what all the Christians arguing with me, getting triggered and arguing with me on Twitter sound like in my head now when they say these things about our morals. And the way Hitchens and this guy Stephen Fry, and again, I like I said, I know he's a Marxist. I'm going to play another clip where I show again that he's soft on Jews as well. But what they say about the Old Testament and about Judaism here is what everybody with any honor and integrity that isn't completely cucked and scared to criticize the chosen one should be saying.
After the debate, I caught up with them to try and find out exactly what enrages them. about the Bible and the Ten Commandments. Christopher Hitchens, how would you sum up the impact of the Ten Commandments?
As an appeal to give your allegiance to a totalitarian authority. It's a document of a very aggressive and cruel tribe and religion. And it shows.
Honour thy parents, is that?
No, but obvious things like this code are common to all human morality, and I would say innate, and that religion gets its morality from humans and not the other way around.
That's a good point right there.
Morality from humans and not the other way around.
Religion gets morality from humans and not the other way around.
As our interview came to a close, Christopher gave his views on the story of Moses.
But you know, it was Marcion, I think, of the early church fathers, who said, dump the Old Testament, start afresh. Marcion was the cleverest Christian there ever was.
Yeah,
You're saddled with this savage Judaism.
She's telling the Catholic, you're saddled with this savage Judaism. And Christians are saddled with Judaism. You're Judeo-lite. You're the antithesis. You're on the Jewish paradigm. All Christians are Zionists because they're all playing into the Jewish paradigm by enabling these delusions, by validating these Jewish prophecies.
It's actually evil.
I don't mind being saddled with
evil.
Ten Commandments.
Read the next chapters. They are ordered in the next chapter to massacre and slaughter and enslave people. It's wicked. It's really awful. And they give it to children. It's disgraceful.
3,000 years ago,
really
yeah.
Terrible. And we won't let it happen.
3,000 years ago, yeah, quite.
All right, bye now.
The Ten Commandments have underpinned Western law for centuries, indeed for millennia. What's wrong with that?
Well, what's wrong with it is it isn't true, of course. The fact is, anybody, Socrates, for example, Plato, his recorder, anybody who is interested in virtue, justice, truth, the right thing to do, is going to examine what is at the heart of good human behavior.
They took a code of morals which simply said, you honour God, you honour your parents, you don't steal, you don't kill.
You just got to honor God, honor the God of the Jews from Zion that hated the Gentiles. You have to honor the God that hated the Gentiles and wants to feed off our riches. Honor the God.
You remain faithful in marriage.
You're not mentioning the silly ones, are you?
No, I'm going right through the 10.
Right, okay, let's go for the covetousness then.
It's number 10.
All right. Sorry, that's very rude.
That is number
You're
10.
Right.
Okay, right. What exactly is wrong with those code of morals?
There's nothing wrong with those particular commandments, if you call them, but let's look at what they don't do. They don't stop slavery. There's no mention of it, and they kept slaves. So, hello, what a perfect society they had because of their Ten Commandments. What did God forget? The Ten Commandments are the hysterical believings of a group of desert tribes. Those desert tribes have stored up more misery for mankind than any other group of people in the history of the planet.
There's a quote. Those desert goat herder tribes of Judaism have caused more damage on the planet. Hitchens said it's evil. Like, these are some of the most famous atheists of all time, basically. And they're saying the exact same things that I'm saying, but somehow, because I'm just not, I don't play it safe and I'm not soft or I'm not a Marxist like these guys, and I go along with the system, I'm an evil anti-Semite. Well, they would be calling these guys anti-Semites too. Richard Dawkins was accused of being an anti-Semite because in his book he said that it was the God of the Old Testament. So the Jews are like, oh, you're calling out our God, you're anti-Semitic.
And they're doing it to this day. In Commandments. What did God forget? The Ten Commandments are the hysterical believings of a group of desert tribes. Those desert tribes have stored up more misery for mankind than any other group of people in the history of the planet, and they're doing it to this day.
I've asked you if you think that there was anything wrong with them, and you've said no.
To say that should underpin the way we live, to say it's a commandment, that gives all your game away. How dare you command? You bid us be commanded. I think life is much more exciting than that, to do with finding out. It's not to do with being told by some awful patriarch.
Stephen, we're not speeching, we're trying to answer.
I am, sorry, I'm happy to. Because these damn commandments of yours, you say they've made life better, I say they've suppressed and tyrannized and bullied.
Suppressed, tyrannized, and bullied. Well put.
Of course, I'm not such a fool that I don't realise those views are shared by more and more people, and that aspects of the Bible are unpalatable to modern sensibilities.
Aspects of the Bible are unpalatable to modern sensibilities. Is that good? Is that on point or what?
It was written over 3,000 years ago, and in very different times. But I still believe that, like all great philosophies, the Bible contains eternal moral truths, which are still relevant today. Don't lie, don't steal, be faithful, honour thy father and thy mother.
Oh, they could have never came up with that without Moses coming down from the mountain with some carved stones. You know, they would never have been able to put it together without that fictitious story. All right, let's see. Oh, and now we got Christopher Hitchens on this is Christopher Hitchens on his Jewish heritage and how all of his favorite people are Jews.
Tell me why you were pleased, if I understood you correctly, pleased to find out that you are actually vestigially Jewish.
In other words, yes, on my mother's side of my family, there was a Jewish inheritance going back to
Mount Sinai.
I would say, I don't mean inheritance, I mean provenance, going back to Poland. And,
right. But what about it was pleasing to you, to the extent that it was pleasing to a man who dislikes organized religion?
So why are you so happy to find out you're Jewish when you dislike organized religion? That's the question. $5 from Liam Jarrett says, this is for that impression. Thanks, buddy. Also, Truth Earth says, she's a mega Karen. Oh my God, shut her up. She's very painful to listen to, I know. I love the voice. I'm going to have to use that voice more.
Well, because I think this question has something to do with your sensitivity to anti-Semitism, anti-Judaism.
Yes, but hating the people who hate them is a duty, I think, that's incumbent on anybody, as it is, say, incumbent to hate people who hate Jamaicans or homosexuals.
You see, he hates people that hate the Jews, which is Christians. Where did the Christians get the doctrine from? They were targeted by the Jews, and they told them they'd burn in hell if they didn't believe these things. This is where it came from. And then you're going to hate them because they've been infected with this Jewish mind virus of Christianity? See, they've been scapegoated. It was a trap all along, and now Christians are the villains of history, and the Jews are the eternal victims. Because of this, fulfilling the prophecy via Christians and even anti-Semitic Christianity benefited the Jews. Many Jews suffered, but Jewry in general benefited. And rabbis, this is the typical mainstream rabbinical view. Anti-Semitism, and especially Christian anti-Semitism, they strive off it. It what strengthens them. It what keeps them Jewish. It keeps them from assimilating. It makes them fearful and believe that they're chosen and that their prophecies are real.
But I mean,
it makes it so they can censor anybody that wants to criticize their chosen Zionist agenda.
Wouldn't have been, what I should say, why is it different from finding that I had Jamaican or homosexual identity? Well, in my case, it would be, I mean,
we were waiting for that.
Well, and why it was pleasing to me? Well, because first anecdotally, I remember when I had a party once in Capitol Hill with my first wife, who's Greek, where we thought we won't ask anyone who we just owe dinner to or anything. I mean, we could do that another time. Just have, for once, just the people we'd like to see. And when we were clearing up afterwards, she said, it's interesting, almost all your best friends are Jewish, aren't they? And I thought about it, yes, actually, that does seem to be true.
All of his best friends were Jewish. So you see, the mainstream atheists that get promoted, they will criticize some, but it's exactly like I've always said. The narrative is, it's the Jewish victims and the evil Christians. That's the narrative that you always hear. Whereas I'm here saying it's been a trap, it's been a deception, the whole Esau, Jacob persecution, the law of nature, it all fits in to scapegoat the Gentiles with the sins of the Jews and have them fulfill the adversary Satan role as Jesus did.
Has been true for quite a bit. The greatest influences on my political, ideological formation were Marx and Freud and Einstein. I don't think it's a coincidence.
His heroes are Marx, Freud, and Einstein. Talk about having three worse heroes than Marx, Freud, and Einstein. A bunch of racist frauds and psychos.
You don't think it's a coincidence that they were Jewish?
No, I don't. I can't make myself think it is. My late friend...
it's not a coincidence that his three heroes are all Jewish. Marx, Freud, and Einstein.
Jacobo Tullman, the great hero in Argentina during the black years of fascism, who, in his book, his Prisoner Without Name, Cell Without Number, he replicates essentially a medieval torture scene to which he was subjected, except it's updated. He said, they think the Jews are trying to take Patagonia away from Argentina to make a special Zionist thing in the Southern Cone. They think the Jews are running the communists who oppose the dictatorship. They also think they're inventing the capitalists who are profiting from.
Oh my gosh, he sounds exactly like Deborah Lipstadt and every anti-Semitism propagandist to ever exist. Oh, these anti-Semites claim that the Jews are communist or the Jews are capitalist. Yeah, they could be both. They can control both. They can dominate in both. Like
Argentina's distress. And then they say, and do you not realize, Senor Timmerman, that Karl Marx destroyed the Christian conception of the organic economy and society? Albert Einstein destroyed the Christian concept of the orderly cosmos. And Sigmund Freud destroyed the Christian concept of the fraternal and unchanging family. Right. Do you think between prods of the counterprod?
Internal and unchanging family is what Freud did?
Freud destroyed the Christian concept of the fraternal and unchanging.
So he loves his Jewish heroes because they all supposedly destroyed aspects of Christianity. As if Einstein didn't also destroy the same religious explanation as the Torah that the Jews believe. That the Jews don't believe in having a family and stuff about sexuality like Freud. Like all of this applies to Jews too. Yet he's saying he loves these Jews because they did it to the Christians.
Right.
He might as well love Jesus. Jesus might as well be his hero because he subverted the Gentiles as well, and he's Jewish.
Between prods of the cattle prod, do you think this is
the character
by chance? I don't know what he answered, if he did, but my answer would be no, it's not. You may be fucking stupid Catholic fascist, but you got that right. You're right.
They always leave out, by the way, the Jewish invention of anthropology.
In other words, you said, with my attitude to organized religion, how could I be pleased?
What did he say? They always leave out Jewish anthropology?
Fucking stupid Catholic fascist, but you got that right.
They always leave out, by the way, the Jewish invention of anthropology.
In other words, you said, with my attitude to organized religion, how...
The Jewish invention of anthropology, so they invented that too, huh?
Would I be pleased? Well, the most post-religious group in the history of humanity so far, the most self-emancipated from religion, are the Jews, or is the Jewish people.
The same line as Sam Harris. The most emancipated religious people from religion are the Jews.
Emancipated from religion are the Jews, or is the Jewish people. The most significant scientific and philosophical and ideological underminers of the mad idea that we're a special creation, let alone that there is a special creation within humanity with one tribal name, are all Jews. By the way, I think that's a Jewish duty. I mean, since the curse of monotheism was first inflicted on us by Jewish people, it's very good that it should be repudiated by them to such a great extent.
Why do you think Judaism is self-undermining in the way that you describe it?
Well, why aren't Jews drinkers?
Because they have to pay attention.
No, because it dulls.
Why aren't Jews drinkers?
Pain.
It dulls the pain.
Come up with a
It's their religion to drink. They get wasted on their religious holidays. This guy, and people think this guy's like the greatest intellectual and genius like ever. And he just spouts nonsense a lot of the time.
To such a great extent.
Why do you think Judaism is self-undermining?
He thinks there's no Gentiles that have ever not believed in Judeo-Christianity. He's giving the Jews all the credit for atheism, is what he's trying to do.
Mining in the way that you describe it.
What about all the Gentile world, all that before Judaism and monotheism existed? He's also not even factoring any of that in.
Well, why don't...
And it was all conquered by the Jewish spin-off religions.
Why aren't Jews drinkers?
Because they have to pay attention.
No, because it dulls the pain. Of course they've come up with a self-undermining exile, persecution, contempt, insecurity.
Exile and persecution are part of their prophecies. The exile was part of their prophecy. You can't play the victim and then the rabbis are saying, oh, it's all according to prophecy. It's God's plan.
Do you think we should not come up with a self-undermining and self-critical world outlook? Of course. What could be more likely?
Again, see, this is why it's so different from what these guys did. He's been dead for a while now.